My only sister was made into a doll. On his deathbed, he was treated like a dog and ended up with no bones left. Since the world has failed you, then I'll kill everything in this world for you. And yet there was no joy in my heart when my revenge was avenged. There's nothing but remorse in my heart. If only I'd started learning the sword earlier. Doesn't it mean that my sister won't be forced into a marriage? The Empire would never have a demon like me. I have nothing to hold on to in this moment. I took the dagger and stabbed myself in the heart. I can feel myself losing consciousness. The heavy eyelids closed slowly and uncontrollably, and his exhausted body collapsed to the ground. At that moment of death, my whole life's experiences flashed through my mind quickly. I saw the father who treated me so badly, sister who's known throughout the continent for her beauty, and the brother who's been torturing me since I was a kid. At the same time, I saw the devil in disguise dominating the continent. I destroyed the only empire in the Western continent for revenge. I'm satisfied with the end of it all, accepted death with open arms. After all, I have no reason to live anymore. My heart gradually stopped beating, but I'm supposed to be dead to wake up from a familiar situation. Unbelievably, I pinched my cheeks. The sharp pain made me realize I was alive. I can't believe I'm actually a teenager again. Is this a chance for the gods to give me a do-over? In this life, I'm going to turn the tables. I'll make those who insulted me pay. I will kill those who trample on my will, tread hard on it. The most important thing is to free my sister from the tragedy of her last life. I'll take back with my own hands everything I lost in my past life, and this rotten family will be under my control. Just when I'm in the middle of a fantasy, a black figure appeared behind me. Suddenly, there was a sharp pain in the back of my head, with a sound of breaking glass. I stumbled and fell backwards in front of me. The man who attacked me was my blood brother. His name is Pain. He's the second oldest in the family. He's afraid I'll grow up and fight him for the head of the family. They threatened my mother's life and confined me to this temple of violets, the only elder sister in the family who treated me with sincerity. He's also imprisoned. It's become a tool for political marriage with the royal family. But this time, I didn't compromise. I've been living again, and I already know. Mother is no longer alive. I stood up with a grudge, staring angrily at the scum in front of him. You deserve to die. Pain heard me insult him. He clenched his fists in anger and slammed them at me. I dodged it and grabbed his wrist. I'm a new man, facing that scumbag brother again. I didn't hesitate for a second. He lunged towards him with a big step. My brother also launched a counterattack on me. As a cultivation genius, I dodged it easily, followed by cohesion. He hit him in the lower part of the body with one swing. The pain distorted his face. Eventually, he couldn't take the pain and fainted. The guards who had been watching me drew their swords, trying to get me arrested. If you want to live, don't do anything rash. The guards, who are afraid for their lives, they also stopped in their tracks. I grabbed Pain's hair as hard as I could, dragged him to the pool like a dead dog. You're sweating so much. Let my kind brother wash your face. I pushed his head into the pool. After a close encounter with cold water, Pain's waking up, started begging me for forgiveness over and over again. I looked at his ugly cheeks. More than that, I can't help but be angry. I'm sorry. I don't think you're even remotely remorseful. After all, you're a scumbag who doesn't know how to be affectionate. I raised my fist to strike him a blow. That's when my nanny, Little Joe, stopped me. I understand. This is not the best time to kill Pain. I knocked him out and threw him to the ground. Trample him down hard. He's not dead. Just take him and get the hell out of here. This time, I'll kill Pain. I wonder what Father Sama will do overnight. The story of me scrapping my brother has spread throughout the family. The family is in turmoil. That's when my father, whom I hadn't seen in 10 years, ordered me to be summoned. Hear that, I got up and walked to his palace. I'd like to see what he'll do to me in this life. Everyone was whispering the whole way, and steal glances at me from time to time. It's not good to be too handsome. I was just about to push open the door to my father's room. The two guards raised their weapons in front of me and looked at me with contempt. If you keep staring at me like that, I'll kill you. Then I broke his leg with a kick. I'll teach you a lesson this time. It seems that my father intends me to reflect outside. I turned around and got ready to leave and have the guards take a message. If my father had something to say to me, let him meet me in person. Don't tell me what to do for the smallest thing. These words soon reached my father's ears. Soon he led a group of men to my residence. This stubborn face, it's exactly what I thought it would be. Welcome, my lord, to my violet garden. I don't know what's going on. I'll have to ask you to come all the way here. Just then my father's power suddenly exploded. I'll use my magic to check my cultivation qualifications. But how could I, as a fully leveled mage, let him know? But I never thought my father would accuse me of practicing black magic and ordered me to be imprisoned in a dungeon for life. It seems there's really no room for me in this house. And yet, just as I was sleeping, A soft call woke me from my dream. It's my sister Elizabeth visiting me, the sister who only existed in dreams in her previous life. I finally met again in my new life. My sister, with tears in her eyes, caressed my cheek and inquired about my current status. Looking at my sister, who was worried about me, my eyes suddenly became hazy. Tears gushed from my eyes uncontrollably. I'm glad this moment is real after you've calmed down. I said what was on my mind to my sister. Sister, let's run away. We're giving up everything in the family. Go find a peaceful place to start a new life. Free yourself from this corrupt family. Don't be so submissive anymore. Okay, but my sister refused on the spot. No matter what happens, this has always been our home. I know father's been neglecting you, but I'll try to change his attitude toward you, so just hold on a little longer. Okay, those words froze me in my tracks. I think my sister said the same thing in my previous life. I wouldn't dare ask for so much. I'm happy to see you again. Then I gathered my magic in the palm of my hand, blasted into the cage that held me. The door lock shattered in a flash, to the disbelieving eyes of my sister. I pushed open the prison doors and walked out. I hugged my sister. Sister, you don't have to be so hard on yourself. From now on, no one can force you to do anything you don't want to do. In an instant, my murderous aura filled the entire dungeon. In this life, I'll kill all those who bullied you. In my previous life, my sister tried to get me out of the family's way. I promised my father to marry the fourth prince of the royal family as a concubine. But when we got to the palace, she's no better than a servant. She died a hateful death, abused by the royal family. I've come back to my senses. I asked my sister not to worry about me ... and don't go pleading with that cold-hearted father for me. But my sister just got out of jail. The first thing I did was get to my father. He begged his father bitterly, release me from prison. But my father was unmoved by it. After seeing all this, my sister's face clouded over. It's as if you've realized something. I think you're trying to warn me with this. Father didn't even try to hide it. Not bad. You're really smart, in fact. My sister knew it all along. She's just a tool for the family's prestige. And the father is trying to make him understand. If you don't follow the family's orders, and he'll take all his anger out on me. Then my father began to tell my sister about the future. He promised to let me out of the family when I came of age, but only if you agree to the marriage of the fourth prince of the royal family. When my sister heard that I could regain my freedom, I didn't think twice about it. Yet the moment he stepped out of his father's room, my sister sits helplessly on the ground. Why wouldn't he want to run away with me? But he knows we can't escape the family. So I also received a notice that I could leave the prison. But just as I reached out to retrieve my clothing, one of the guards has a death grip on my shirt and had the audacity to let me walk out of prison barefoot. I didn't think a mere soldier would dare to humiliate me so blatantly. I gathered my strength and slammed it directly at the soldier. With a mournful wail, I cut off his head. Back to my violet garden again, my nanny, Ziqiao. He's waiting for me at the door at this moment. I also realized that there were twice as many soldiers watching me as before. Then a knight in training approached me. After a moment's hesitation, he asked me about the murder in prison. He wants a reasonable explanation from me. As a knight in training, who are you to ask me questions? Your orders were just to watch me from here. That's the kind of aftermath you should take care of yourself. These words directly disliked the trainee knight to the point of speechlessness. So I turned around and walked away. By the way, if you have any complaints, I'm going to talk to my father. Suddenly, there was a noise in my stomach. When Joe heard that, he went to get me some lunch. Look at all the delicious food in front of you. I forked up a piece of meat and brought it to little Joe. Ziqiao was like an ant on a hot pan when she saw this, hurriedly shaking his head and refusing my food. Then I put this piece of meat in my mouth. Say it, why did you poison me? Ziqiao also frowned slightly after hearing my words, but I was quite shocked by her next reply. She said it was my mother's dying order to her, because my mother once prophesied, I'm going to lose everything precious in my life to magic. I guess my mother wasn't an ordinary person either. After all, even his guardian is a legendary 9th-ranked magician. Ziqiao's whole body shivered when she heard it. He doesn't know how I found out he's a wizard. Don't be nervous. I decided to pretend I didn't know anything. After all, the little Joe in front of me now, it's more important to me. Ziqiao also lowered her head in shame, asked me what I want her to do. I asked Ziqiao to protect her sister. Little Joe told me. My sister was already a 6th-ranked wizard at 18. She's perfectly capable of protecting herself. I shook my head after hearing that. Sister is too easy to compromise. He'll sacrifice his freedom for the family, even life, and this rotten family. But he's not worth it. I intend to leave for the academy tomorrow. That's why I want you to watch over my sister for 4 years. After that, you can go on with your life. In 4 years, I'll be able to protect my sister on my own. After all, My teacher is the strongest black magician in history. Just when we were talking about important topics, a sharp knock on the door interrupted our conversation. So it's a knight in training reporting for duty, off to care for the guards. Is it done so quickly? The trainee knights have shown that the guards were training when their short swords accidentally fell out of their hands, inadvertently cut off his own head. I'm quite pleased with his ability to do the job. A dog trained by his father, I continue to instruct the apprentice knights. Go find me a good wooden sword. I'd like to practice my swordplay, but who would have thought? The trainee knight refused my order outright and told me his job doesn't include running errands. You knights have a lot of pride, don't you? Then I'll give you a chance to beat me up. Little Joe saw me wanting to go one-on-one with the knight, get up and stop me. He doesn't think I can beat a 4th degree knight. I looked at Little Joe's anxious face. Why don't we make a bet? Let's see if I can beat him. Little Joe, on the other hand, has no faith in me at all. He thought it would be reasonable to bet on how many times I'd be knocked out by my opponent. That should be fun, too. Why don't we add a little something to the pot? If I get hit by him once in a duel, what if you win? The bet is that the loser has to do something for the winner. Ziqiao, on the other hand, said coyly after hearing this. There's actually anything that needs to be done with him. All can be ordered directly. You don't have to risk getting hurt to go toe dash to dash toe ... somehow. The more Little Joe said that, I just wanted to tease him more and more. Don't think of yourself as a servant. After all, in this Marquis house, I only trust my sister and you. That's why I'd only ask someone I trust with all my heart. Instead of ordering, Little Joe listened to me. A deer in the headlights. That's when the trainee knight came to me again. He chose to accept my challenge. If that's the case, then let's go someplace where no one's looking. Immediately after that, I pointed my finger at his head. Are you afraid of losing to me? This action brought a look of anger to the trainee knight's face. I'm not afraid because you're no match for me. See that he agrees, so I asked Joe if he could find a private arena. Soon Little Joe led me to a basement. From Joe's mouth, this is where my mother was when she was alive. A space built just for me and my sister. It's just that in this life I've never worked out, so I don't know anything about this place. I look at the immaculate weapons on the wall. It looks like Little Joe comes in and cleans regularly, too. After that, I went to the apprentice knight and asked for a wooden sword. Come on, don't dawdle. I took the wooden sword from his hand. The moment I gripped that sword, my whole demeanor has changed forever. After all, I've killed people in my past life. They could be stacked as high as the sky. I grabbed my wooden sword and rushed at the trainee knight. The knight in training saw a bad situation. He raised his weapon to block. A sword blocked my attack. A cold smile then appeared on his face as well, but before he could do anything about it, I just teleported right in front of him, put a wooden sword to his throat. If this is a real sword, you're already dead? The apprentice knight looked at me with an incredulous look on his face. He couldn't believe it was my first time with a sword. The babysitter, Joe, was also dumbfounded when she saw it. He saw me get knocked back by the horseman. I would have been knocked to the ground. It's the right thing to do to lose the ability to fight back. But my speed increased dramatically ... and with skillful bodywork. Perform perfect attacks and dodges. He's sure of it. If I had a real sword in my hand, the knight will die. It also made Little Joe ponder, because as far as he remembered, I've never even touched a sword. Not to mention learning swordsmanship. At this moment, I was in Little Joe's eyes. It's like a demon. I gazed at the defeated knight before me. Ask him his real age. Knight stammered back 23. And he told me that he started practicing swordplay when he was 18. 5 years to reach 4th level swordsman. You seem to have a lot of talent. With that said, I used black magic to observe the future of this knight. And at the heart of this knight, 8 magic crystals appeared if you practice properly. He'll reach the level of an 8th ranked swordsman. With that kind of strength, you could be a knight commander of a noble family. But now they've been ordered by the family to guard a child. It's ridiculous. I put away my magic and threw the wooden sword on the ground, picked up a real iron sword. Then I smiled weakly at the knight. I'm kind of happy with you now. Seeing that I picked up the iron sword, a cold sweat oozed from the knight's forehead. He's afraid I'll be hurt by the sword's recoil. I laughed when I heard what he said, but the next moment my look was gloomy. You're the only one who can hurt me. I'll give you a piece of advice. There's a difference between self-confidence and self-importance. You just think what happened was a fluke, don't you? The knight listened with a slight frown. I could feel the contempt on his face. Since you think I'm a fluke, then you'll make the first move this time. In the face of my provocation, the knight was outright furious. He lifted his wooden sword and lunged at me. I didn't expect him to be so easily angered. That's why he's still an apprentice knight. When our weapons meet, once again, I shot his weapon down. The sword was pointed at his throat. I won again. The knight looked at me with disbelief, rushing to ask me how I did it. I was just at the moment when the two swords met. It's just a change of direction. It's my own sword move. Not for a novice like you to learn. My words made the knight furious. He decided to fight me again with a real real sword. Instead, I turned around and looked at Joey. I won that bet. My wish is for you to protect my sister. You can do it, can't you? Little Joe was also respectful enough to give me a positive answer. The knight picked out a weapon he could use and came at me. Third young master, I won't do what I did just now. That's what makes it fun. You have my permission to use your magic, because I'm gonna use it. With that, I started feeding magic into the iron sword, and then jumped violently, a sword to the knight. The knight saw this and raised his long sword and began to block. But the body of the knight who resisted the sword gradually began to tremble. Finally, he couldn't hold it any longer. The long sword in his hand also came out of his hand, staggering and falling to the ground. That's why it's the way it is. It's because I'm putting my whole body through the magic. It's all centered around the wrist. In an instant, it exploded with amazing power. I stepped hard on the knight's chest. I didn't realize it would be over so soon. The knight inquired in disbelief if I was a three-hand swordsman. How can I be that powerful? I'm only a one-paragraph swordsman at the moment. I said, do you have to be a full knight? The trainee knight froze. What else could I do but knight? Let me give you a suggestion. You can be a little dog that does what I tell you to do. I promise it'll be more fun than you becoming a full-fledged knight. You'll have a bigger future ahead of you, too, but he doesn't believe it at all. Just a curious question. What does it take to be a hound? Just assassinating people who get in my way. As soon as I heard the word assassination, knights get the shivers. Ask him who he needs to assassinate. That's for you to figure out, but the target of the assassination, isn't it simple if you think about it? I'll only give you one day. I hope you make the right decision. When I finished speaking, I turned and walked toward my quarters. Little Joe kept scolding me for doing things too recklessly. If word of what happened gets back to the Marquise, that's fucked up, but I grinned. That wicked woman tried to kill me, though. But for now, she doesn't dare. If I die, she won't be able to control my sister. And I'm about to leave for the academy. At most, he'll find someone to beat me up. And no one in the world can kill me. That sort of thing. Even the strongest of the two continents couldn't do it. He can't hurt me with just a woman. That's hilarious. After that, I headed for my room. But Ziqiao called out to me with a worried look on her face. Don't worry about it. I'll never die if I don't want to. Little Joe asked me if I had any other cards. I couldn't help but laugh out loud when I heard that. Let's call it what it is. If you're curious about what's going to happen on the way to the academy tomorrow, you can sneak up on me. All the mysteries will be revealed at that time, but you'll have to come quietly, and I'm going to recultivate my second level. You remember not to let anyone in my room. Ziqiao's face darkened after hearing. It's not as simple as you make it out to be. It might be a little difficult for others, but to me, it's like drinking water. I made it to second level in 2 minutes. Also mastered the ability to release magic instantly. You know, even a 9th order magician. Not many people can do magic instantly. A normal wizard casts magic by chanting an incantation, because spells are used to bridge the elements around you. If you want an instant release, you have to blend your body with the elements around you. This world is divided into magicians and swordsmen, and I am the first person in this continent to practice both magic and sword. On the side, Little Joe saw me. The whole group froze, returning to my senses. I also noticed Little Joe's state of being. Why are you looking at me like that? Then I casually asked Little Joe, how long did it take to break through to the second level? Little Joe, on the other hand, stammered back a 2 month. Only for 2 months? Then you're a genius too, Ziqiao. You know that ordinary people want to reach the second order magician. It'll take at least 4 months. Ziqiao also laughed at herself after hearing this. I became a second order wizard in 2 minutes. Compared to a genius like you, I'm way off. After hearing that, I awkwardly changed the subject. Asked Little Joe about his current hours. On learning that it was already time for dinner, my stomach growled uncontrollably. Little Joe was going to go out and prepare dinner when he heard that, but I refused, because it occurred to me that it should be about dinner time at my father's place. Then I took a big step toward it. Little Joe guessed what I was thinking and stopped me right away. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to tell them. It's just a matter of me heading to the academy tomorrow. What I didn't know, however, was my sister is there right now, being humiliated by the vicious Marquise, because the Marquise has learned that I'm going to take the night. As a message from the hounds, he'll use it as an excuse, threatening his sister to follow his orders in the future. If you don't follow orders, he'll send someone to make me disappear without a trace. My sister was trying to protect me. He actually agreed to his request after hearing my sister's promise. The Marquise then proudly asked him to follow her to dinner, just as they were picking up their cutlery and preparing to eat. The sound of a door breaking and entering attracted their attention, and that's when I came barging in with my six-parent stride. It's not the end of the country. Why is the atmosphere at the table so depressing? My arrival surprised everyone. I'm still the third youngest member of the family. It shouldn't be so bad that we don't even have a seat. When I finished, I sat down in front of them and ate without ceremony. Although your food here is not bad, but it's still not as good as Little Joe's. Soon I was eating my way through them. Marquise and Payne, they're all red in the face when they see me like this. That's when my father finally asked why I was here. I grinned when I heard that. I wouldn't come to this dreary place if I didn't have anything to do, unless it's the day I'm ready to kill you. But when my father found out, he didn't get angry. Instead, I'm very excited, and he gave up on the spot and let me do it. And I grinned after watching my father's reaction. He immediately said it was not time to kill him. Then they spoke to them. Prepare for the news of tomorrow's trip to the academy. The Marquise was also furious to hear this news, because when I'm gone, he'll have a hard time controlling my sister to do things for him. I thought my father would say something to me, but he just said yes, and I've got a knight to escort me. Anyhow, I'm glad my father agreed so readily, just as I was about to leave. I noticed my brother, Payne, who was trembling. I picked up the bottle and pointed it at him. I heard you got hydrophobic after the last time you drank the foot wash. When I finished, I spilled red wine in front of him. Payne's face turned pale when he saw it. Seeing this, the Marquise hurriedly stepped in front of Payne, and then angrily accuses me of being a rude bastard. I've heard it all, but I've heard nothing at all. She treats him like a whining bitch. The Marquise, on the other hand, was staring at me in exasperation. He immediately said he'd find someone to chop my head off in the future. I froze when I heard that ... At the same time, an evil smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. That's something to look forward to when I got back to the house. My sister gave me a hard time, and then early the next morning, and I went with the order to the academy. That's when I realized that the Knight Commander had been glancing at me from the corner of his eye, and I was looking at me in an unusual way. Even the trainee knight's gaze was like, wise. I think they've been instructed by the Marquise. It's like there's some kind of conspiracy going on. My sister also noticed something unusual about them. He said he wanted to go to the academy with me. I told my sister not to worry. After all, I'm the third young master of the family. At that moment, the Knight Commander suddenly interrupted our conversation and told my sister and Little Joe not to follow anymore. They had no choice but to turn around and leave. That's when I stopped Little Joe and remind him not to forget that promise we made yesterday. Ziqiao also reacted after hearing. He said he would always sneak up behind me. I asked him to escort my sister back to the family, and I'm thinking that as long as it's nighttime, Little Joe will know all my secrets. It's a gift from me to Little Joe. Then I fell asleep from exhaustion, and the Knight Commander saw me fall asleep. In his eyes, there was a flash of murderous intent. I got up and walked over to the trainee rider. Also at this time, the entire order swarmed around me. The leading Knight Commander did not conceal in the least. It's a direct statement that in the 4 days that you're going to the academy, camping once a night. At this point, his face turned into a scowl. Tell me right after. I'll break my limbs repeatedly during the camping trip, and give me medicine to heal my wounds again after the camping trip. And also tell me, the Marquise order them. Nullify the magic ring I've made before going to the academy. I was shocked to hear that. If the magic ring on the heart is destroyed, it's the equivalent of a death sentence. Even if we survive, I'll have to live as an invalid for the rest of my life. After that, he poked me twice with his sword. My face clouded in the face of his provocation. After the Knight Commander saw my look of something akin to fear, and it was exciting, then he drew his sword and tried to kill me. But I didn't panic in the face of the crowd and slowly met his sword. The Knight Commander saw my move, thought I was scared out of my wits, but the next second, and I drew my sword, which was in my walking stick. I chose to use my second daughter wizard's strength. He confronted a Knight Commander of the 7th degree. The Knight Commander looked at me with a murderous rage. Shiver all over idiom, a sudden movement of the body. After all, that killing spirit of mine. But it's been accumulated through the slaughter of millions of people in my previous life. At that moment, I released all my magic and killing energy. He leapt and slashed at the Knight Commander. At that moment, the Knight Commander instinctively felt the threat of death. The whole body can't help but start to tremble and tingle. The dark elements of heaven and earth, it's beginning to center on me. Because what I'm doing is black magic, which is considered taboo. The crowd of knights saw this. They're also working together to defend against my death-defying blow. At this moment, they see me as a hellish monster, inviolable, with the weapon in my hand in pieces. The life force of all the knights was consumed by my black magic. However, the sword's repercussions on itself were extremely strong. If you can't get medical attention in the first place, you'll be dead for sure. Ziqiao, after seeing me seriously injured, Scrambling out of the side of the grass, I've also been aware of Little Joe. Asked him for a healing potion. Little Joe snapped out of his daze. He hurriedly took out a bottle of healing medicine from his pocket and fed it to me. I also breathed a long sigh of relief after drinking the potion. Little Joe, on the other hand, said, "Without this potion, I don't think I'm gonna make it." But I'm not worried at all, because I know that Joe Jr. has to deal with emergencies. Always keep a bottle of expensive potion. After all, the exact same thing happened in a previous life. My father was determined to kill me. For this reason, they even sent some of the only 9th ranked swordsmen in the continent to hunt me down, just as I was about to be decapitated by that group of pursuers. My nanny, Little Joe, stepped up to the plate. He gave his life to break my back. Even when he was seriously injured, he let me have the only bottle of potion he had. After I've recovered a bit here, also said thanks to Little Joe. I also told him I was a black magician. Ziqiao also showed a thoughtful look after hearing this. He guesses my secret is rebirth. I was also shocked when faced with Little Joe's inquiry, and then I admitted it. That's when the potion's effect kicked in. I got up when the pain went away. That's when I realized. When Ziqiao learned of my rebirth, I'm not surprised. So I asked him if he wanted to know what the future of the Marquis would be like. Little Joe was also stumped by my comment. He then stated that he should have been exterminated. And you can tell by my reaction, it's a very sad process. After I heard that, I came over to Little Joe's side, said if he wanted to know. I would have told him, but with my teasing, Little Joe's still not interested, so I continued to ask him. I wonder what he'll be like in the future. Little Joe was a bit more interested at the moment, and that he doesn't care where he goes, they should all be able to live a good life. But the next moment I firmly dismissed his idea, and tell him about the death of the future Little Joe. But Ziqiao merely sighed after hearing this. It's boring me. At that moment, I turned around and walked up to the carriage to go to bed. And Ziqiao here started to clean up the battlefield. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, he can't believe I killed 25 men with just one blow. And all these people at the same time, he was stabbed through the chest by an invisible force. At this point, he couldn't help but be curious about my past life. At the same time, he's worried about, will I do something dangerous in this life? But just then, in the carriage I was in, suddenly there was a huge explosion. And then the unexpected happened.